From the worldwide headquarters of EAS and Muscle Media Magazine, we're pleased to bring you this up-close and personal one-on-one interview with national sports talk show host Dan Palomino and our guest, Abb Ansley.
Abb Ansley III, hometown Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 1997 physique transformation co-champion. Abb gained 21 pounds of muscle and increased his bench by 75 pounds in just 3 months. 6'2", 206, he joins us today in Golden, Colorado to talk about his secrets in training, nutrition, and supplementation. How's things in Baton Rouge?
They're hot and humid, Dan, just like they always are.
Did I say that right, or is that Baton Rouge?
Well, I'm originally from Georgia, so Baton Rouge is the way I said it. I think the proper pronunciation is Baton Rouge.
Yeah, a lot of fattening food down there.
A little. Crawfish, but only fattening if you suck the heads, they tell me.
Okay. Now, I also have to ask you about the name, Abb, because I'm thinking I should be taking fitness tips from a guy named Abb.
Is that funny? I've been accused of making that up for the contest, but that's the real name. It is short for Absalom.
Really?
It is.
That's not one you come across every day. All right, what was happening about a year and a half ago in Baton Rouge? What type of person was Abb Ansley?
Dan, I'm the father of 4, and I have a wonderful wife, and I work in Baton Rouge in finance. And things were going pretty much as they had for the prior 20 years, chasing kids and going to Little League and thinking that in your mind that you're still an athlete you were in college.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But the before picture for the contest will dissuade any possibility of that if you look at it truthfully.
You're not fat, you're thin. You know.
I thought in one of the essays I wrote for Bill, I said, well, the good news was I looked more like a stick than a pear.
Yeah. I mean, you're not scaring me at a bar. Yeah.
The only thing scary about that is that picture, that before picture.
All right, let's jump forward to today. Who is Abb Ansley, and what type of person is he?
Man, I'm amazed, and I think probably all of us feel pretty confident in some ways, but there have been some good changes. And I think one of the other champions said it best, said the changes on the outside are in some ways a metaphor for the changes on the inside. And I have enjoyed the contest. I am almost 40 pounds heavier than I was a year and a half ago. My body fat percentage is lower, although from my before picture it doesn't look like I could have had any fat.
I was going to say, did you have body fat then?
Well, believe it or not, my body fat was higher than the picture would indicate.
Yeah. Well, an awful lot has happened in between, and it certainly was a journey, and we're interested in that story today, and we're going to go back to the beginning of the story. Let's talk more about what your life was like, the type of things you did, what you ate.
Dan, I had a typical diet, and what is interesting to me, I really did, and maybe there'll be some others in the same category. I had been an athlete in high school and college, and in my mind, I still had this mental picture of the athlete. Now, that is what has been the most interesting thing to me, to look back and realize how far I had let myself slide without really realizing it. And it happens to all of us. I mean, you have children to take care of, and bills to pay, and work to go to, and you just don't. You kind of put it off. Well, I'm gonna work out, but I'm gonna start next week, or And I ran at least once every 2 weeks, so I thought I was in pretty good shape.
So you felt good, and you thought you looked okay.
Well, I didn't say that. I realize now that I didn't feel as good, and I mean, when you have a different perspective to relate from, I feel good now. I didn't realize how bad I felt then, to tell you the truth.
And nobody was giving you a reality check, or?
Well, not really. No, I mean, I was not, and I think this may happen to easier for thin guys to fall into than overweight people to some degree, because nobody was saying, "Oh, Abb, you're fat. You know, you need to lose some weight." There was no pressure there. The old joke, you can't be too skinny or too rich. You know, we could always tell ourselves that if I ever needed to. But so I didn't have that overweight reminder, and inside a business suit and a shirt, I couldn't tell how skinny I was. And again, I did, I quote exercised. I played on a softball team and occasionally ran, so I didn't realize how out of shape I was.
Wife never said, honey, might look good with a little bit bigger biceps.
No, she was kind enough never to say that. I think
Right.
so. Now, after we developed the after picture and compared it with the before picture, she had a 5-minute laughing fit that I thought was funny for about the first 3 or 4 minutes, and after that I told her that was enough.
Yeah, that was certainly enough. Was there a day that you said, all right, I want to change, I want to be bigger? I mean, was it something profound, or was it slight? Had you been thinking about it?
I think that's one of the magical things about the contest. I read the contest, and it was a reason to do something. The car got my attention, as did the fitness model standing beside it.
Yeah.
And of course, Bill has a wonderful way of writing and communicating. And I still remember he said, the worst case, you'll be in better shape than you've ever been in your life. And after 20 years, you realize, boy, I am in bad shape, and I'll need something that'd be fun to do. I might try that. And there was an over 40 category. And there was an essay portion of it, which I do for a living, communicate. And so I thought, I might can do this. Actually, that's not what I thought. I thought, I can do this. And it's been interesting to me to talk to the other contestants that had that same kind of serendipitous kind of little feeling, wait a minute, I can do this. And it's not a bravado kind of scream, by God, I'm going to beat my chest and do it. That's right. But it was just kind of a funny little assuredness that, well, I can do this.
Were you reading the magazine, or did somebody give it to you and say, Ab, I think this is something for you? How'd you fall upon the contest?
I did not read the magazine, but I it was at the newsstand one day, and it caught my attention. Literally, my wife teases me and said, "I'm gonna tell him why you really started reading that magazine." And of course, all the fitness models may have caught mine. I picked it up, and then I saw and I was like, and it's interesting as you get to read the magazine, and I think everybody would agree, because it's happened several times with my friends who don't read, quote, muscle magazines.
Right.
But once they're exposed to a copy of it, there's tremendous amount of nutrition information and articles that are really, I think, cutting edge. I don't know where else a layperson is going to get more nutritious, up-to-date nutritious information, or health-oriented information,
sure,
or bodybuilding information. So my friends began to read it, as I did that day when I picked it up.
What was the biggest motivator? Was it the prize? Was it the car? Was it the competition, the challenge? Or you just said, I would like to see what I could do with my body?
To me, the biggest motivator, initially, after the prize and the contest got you started, was just to see if I could do it myself, to stay on the discipline, to keep the discipline necessary to make sure I made my workouts every other day, and that I stayed on the diet that I had given. And just that to me was my biggest motivation. Was kind of a competition with self.
When you got the material, the products, what did you think? I mean, were you a bit overwhelmed? Did you think, I don't know exactly what I'm doing here, but I'm going to give it a shot?
There was a lot of information, but fortunately, Bill had sent us a nutrition and kind of supplement and workout guide, which I followed very closely, and it was apropos. I also, at that point, subscribed to the magazine and received a couple of publications regarding workouts and so forth, which
right,
I thought were very appropriate. And I never go too far without giving Sean Phillips How to Add 50 Pounds to Your Bench Press workout routine, which came with one of the magazines. And it was excellent, as I remember from 20-something years ago when I had tried to do a bench press in college, and I just was never very good at it. I was tall and my arms were long, so I had never been very successful at it. But Sean really gave me a real good roadmap and a direction to follow.
All right, so you start this thing, and you're going, and you got the information, you're feeling good. When's the first time you want to quit?
Geez, about the second workout. My God, because that really is a reality check.
Yeah.
Your mind takes away, but you're thinking, I can do this. And then all of a sudden you go back out there, and that first time, my God, you want to puke after about the second exercise. You think, what have I done?
Yeah.
Or what have I been doing for 20 years? And that's the case whether it's running or anything. Everybody that's done any exercise familiar with that. Getting into shape is really the hardest part. So especially when there's been such a long hiatus, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first workout. Was the first time. The second workout was the second time. The third workout was the third time. Went on up to about the seventh or eighth workout, I guess.
Right. And it got easier from there?
It really did. After you kind of some of the original soreness and some of the original just pure out of shape kind of cardiovascular and weakness that existed, and your body your body fighting and rebuking, I guess.
Do you have a pretty good support group? Somebody maybe helping you in the gym? How about the family and so forth?
I have a real supportive family, and that's always a pleasure. My wife did not one time say, Ab, you cannot go to the gym tonight because you better damn sure help take care of these kids. She didn't say that one time. Not once. She said it several times. No, she was very supportive. I'm just teasing her. My kids really liked it, and sometimes I have a then 13-year-old, and he would go with me. And occasionally my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old would grace me with their presence. Now that was great until one of them dropped a plate on their toe or something. But anyway, and I did initially, and I think this was smart, and I would probably encourage it. I did hire a trainer for about the first I don't know, in the first 3 weeks, I had a trainer work out with me 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
A guy named Randy Roller, and I'd like to give him credit because he really knew what he was doing, and it helped. Much the same way as a workout partner. When somebody's working out with you, work harder, I think.
Sure.
Just because it's human nature.
Sure. And it must have been nice because the compliments start rolling in and the kids say, hey, Daddy, your arm's getting bigger.
Well, if you've seen the video, my wife gives me a very nice compliment. She said after the 5th or 6th week, she was she noticed some difference, and she was very kind. And to me, that's a real strength of weightlifting, the immediate feedback you get. And it's kind of built in because you get more feedback in the early stages when it's the toughest. And so I think that's one of the reasons I see this as such a universal sport with such a universal appeal that is really underutilized in our country, I think.
Initially, did you have a moderate goal? Did you think, okay, I'm going to try this. If I get a little bit bigger, if I get some definition, then I'm probably going to be happy?
No, to tell you the truth, my intent was to do it full speed. My goal was not modest. My goal was to make a major, major difference. And to because I never had. As the contest, as Bill said, try it. Worst case, you'll be in better shape than you've ever been in. So my goal was to be in better shape than I had ever been in. I sliced it up in very thin slices, though. I didn't think about the end of the contest. I didn't think about the workout next week. With as busy as I had been, and with a family of 4 children, you stay pretty busy. I just thought about not missing the next workout, or doing the workout I was doing, and doing the exercise I was doing, and doing the repetition that I was doing, and I did not go past that. But I entered the contest expecting to pursue it harder than I ever had.
People enter contests all the time, but very few people stick with it, and obviously you've stuck with it. Why do you think people constantly drop out and can't finish the challenge or the journey?
That's a great question, and it's certainly more universal than just the weightlifting, because it happens in all aspects of life. I think 2 things come to mind. One, just the pure difficulty of it. I mean, it's easier to sit in front of the TV. The other is, I think, a lack of knowledge and a lack of immediate kind of feedback if you're not doing it right, or what I found is if you left one of the 3 components which I consider most important on the program out, then you didn't get the results that you needed to help you pursue such a difficult endeavor, and that was the nutrition and the supplementation and the workout. Now, nutrition means your normal diet and so forth. So if either 3 of those were missing, I think that your results were much less pronounced and could not give you the motivation to keep on.
But if people did get results right off the bat,
well, I think that helps, though, Dan.
They would stick with it.
I think that helps because you see that what you're doing is not just wasting time, and that's one of, to me, the real benefits about the EAS product line, because you trust the products. And I had frequented health food stores, as we all had, and most of the time, whatever product I bought, the net effect was that my wallet was slimmer, and that was it.
Yeah.
Whereas the Phosphagen and the HPs and some of the protein supplements really made a difference, I think.
It sounds like things went so smoothly for you, but did you have any tough issues you had to deal with?
Well, I did, and 2 or 3, but not. I worked out typically between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night, after supper and after the kids were there, and I'd been home for a while, and it was. I mean, it's not a major. It was difficult to get up back out of the house and go back out and work out. But I usually found that the first step was the toughest. And once you got there, you had a pretty good workout. There were nights when I did feel like I was probably leaving too much on Lizzie to take care of the kids and so forth. And I was spending not an inordinate amount of time, but certainly much more time than I had previously been spending away from the house, and that was difficult. I found, and this may be more applicable to the over 40 category. You have to be very careful about injury. You have a very finite period there, and I didn't. My program actually was 12 and a half weeks. I mean, and it ended just prior to the contest deadline ending, so I didn't have any time to restart, if you will. And I found that I had a shoulder injury that was particularly nagging for a little while, that bothered me and concerning. So, and you had to kind of work through that. But those were the main issues, I guess, for me.
How about when the kids were in the house eating pizza and you were, enjoying your brown rice?
That did make a difference. But I have as the accountant says, a credit and debit about everything. And the easy part of one of the easy parts of my program, as opposed to a Porter who had to be so concerned about his diet as he lost weight, I was gaining weight.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to give all the credit to Muscle Media and Bill and the article. Because at the appropriate time, right as I began my contest, the article about the anabolic burst diet was prevalent, and that, in short, means eating about 4,000 to 4,500 calories a day for 2 weeks, and then dropping it to 2,000 calories a day for 2 weeks. So I did not have to fight the diet problem like a lot of people did, but it's harder than you think to eat 4,500 calories a day.
Yeah, I know. How did you define your success early, or how did you measure it during the challenge?
I measured it real simple. I measured it every time I made a workout, and worked hard.
And that was good.
And that was as far as I went on mine. I concentrated on again, I sliced it up very thin, and I did one workout at a time.
And I think you've mentioned this. You noticed progress within what, the first week?
No, I really didn't. The first week was tough because I was just sore, and I thought, golly, it's gonna be harder than I thought. Been too long. It's been 20. How many years since I've done anything like this? Probably into week 5, 6, as I began to make significant progress. I mean, I felt better because I was, as they say, how do you build character? You make little promises to yourself and you keep them. So I was keeping those little promises I was making to myself. So I felt mentally better, in spite of the fact that it was making me feel like puking when I worked out. But
yeah,
that was a benefit, I think.
Before this, you mentioned you had gone to nutrition stores and tried other things and just spent a lot of money. I'm sure you had been in the gym and you had worked out and not achieved results. Tell me a little bit about that.
That's a great question, and I think it's, to me, maybe the single most important thing that I found as a common thread between all 10 champions. We all had different workouts, every one of us. I mean, Brad, I think, worked out once or twice a week. Jeff works out, 24 hours a day. The rest of us did different. I worked out every other day. But whatever program we designed for ourselves, we absolutely stuck to it. Now, that's the difference, I think, in most of the people, the Saturday warriors at the gym that look the same way this year as they did last year. They're doing themselves a disservice because you work out Friday this week, and then you got some other things that kind of come up, so you work out maybe Wednesday or Thursday, and you do, there's no set routine. So that I think is important.
At the end of 12 and a half weeks, you're checking yourself out in the mirror. Is it hard to believe?
It was. Honest to God, I know this sounds silly, but I really did concentrate on just making the workouts. And I did not develop the before picture until after the contest. I had it sitting in the drawer. And nor did I really, believe it or not, keep a real constant weight and fat check. Now, I don't recommend it. I've learned a great deal since then, and I think it would have been perhaps more helpful to be, keep a better chart and a better records. But I did not. And no, I loved it, I really couldn't believe it because I had been trying basically all of my life to gain some weight, and the heaviest I had ever been, even in college, and as an athlete, was like 188 or something like that. And I was astounded when I remember halfway through the contest, I did step on scales. I was like 203 or something. I couldn't believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me about the day you found out you were a finalist.
Now that was interesting. And I was so excited. Because what happens is you complete the contest and anticlimactic because you've done the contest, you've done your application, you feel good about it, and you send it in, and then because of the nature of the contest, it was a month or so before you heard anything. And then at work one day, I got a call from an EAS. He said, "This is so-and-so EAS." I said, "Oh, great." I mean, and of course, I immediately started trying to sell him on why I was, man, you need to sign me up. and I remember he said, no, this is not really, I don't have anything to do with the decision making on it. We've narrowed down. You're in the top 200, and we're going to do maybe some interviews and some things. We kind of hoped you might be in town this weekend if we get a chance to send somebody down there to see you. I said, oh, okay, yeah, well, that'd be good. And then, and if you watch the video, there's a particular point in it where Bill and the crew are in the jet, and they said, well, we have a decision to make. And they decided to go all the way over to the East Coast rather than taking a right turn and go down through the Baton Rouge and Tampa. So I didn't hear from them that weekend.
Right.
And so it was, I was excited, and I kind of believed him. I said, well, okay, the finalists are not named yet. But on the other hand, couldn't figure out why they would come all the way to Baton Rouge to see me if there wasn't something good to say.
Right.
But then I didn't hear.
Right.
And oh man, I mean, we kind of kept the house clean for all weekend, and I did get a call on Sunday morning. So it looks like it'll be this afternoon, but Saturday. We'll definitely be there tomorrow. Then I didn't hear anything Sunday. I didn't hear anything Monday. I didn't hear anything Tuesday. And by then, I mean, I would have been okay if I hadn't heard anything to start with. But by then, I'd been kind of okay.
Right.
And by then, I said, well, I'm really disappointed. I realized at that point that I must have kind of been planning on winning. And but I did get a phone call Tuesday night and said, I apologize. We've just been so busy we couldn't get everywhere and everything. But sit down and put us on the speakerphone. I have something to tell you and your family. And so he said, well, ask them how it feels to be the family of the over 40 strength and muscle gain grand champion. And of course it was just a wonderful moment. It was just like the Reader Digest prize control, just like his patrol. We were excited, and it was really a lot of fun.
Well, then 10 of you are flown out to EAS for the finals.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, you think only one of you will be crowned EAS champ. But Bill makes a change. He makes all of you co-champs. All of you get the money, and you get the vet.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty safe to say that it was a dream come true?
It really was, wasn't it? Now, how many times does somebody drop a vet off at your house, or you have such a wonderful time? Now, it was an interesting weekend.
Yeah.
Really excited. And, initially we were going to choose amongst ourselves. And we have all since then, of course, become good friends, and I mean that. It's a good group. However, that first day, as we began to know each other, when we all thought we were still going to vote on each other, we were really a nice bunch of people to each other.
Yeah.
I mean,
you were like politics.
Well, of course,
lobbying for votes here.
It was one of the most interesting situations I've ever been in, and I will tell you this: every single person in those top 10 are competitors. Now, everybody competes in a little different way. Meredith had a card she slid under the door for us for, Abb, congratulations on what you've accomplished. I look forward to meeting you. That was the night before. And Ralph, Ralph would corner you a little bit, and Ralph is a bright guy and just a great guy. And he kind of has some things, might be just me and you, I don't know. and then I'm trying to be my spokesperson as possible. It was really fun though, and so but everybody, all 10 people, are absolute competitors, and it was really fun to see.
What do your friends say the day you pull up at the gym with the vet?
Everybody's been great, and it's been a lot of fun, more fun than you'd ever really think. And I'm old enough so that the vet was really nice, but it was I'm just older, so I didn't realize I would enjoy it as much as I did.
Yeah.
But it was a hoot. And my little girl liked it best of all because she insisted that I drop her off in front of the schoolhouse every day.
Yeah. So. Daddy's got a muscle car.
Daddy's got a muscle car.
How about besides, obviously, the monetary, the vet and the money and so forth, how has your life changed?
Well, I don't think there's any question that we all talk about, and it's cliche. We know how important setting goals are, and you preach it to your kids, and you read it in every self-help book there is. But to have gone through that and the contest, and to be very goal specific, because that's the way Bill made the contest, makes you realize how absolutely critical it is to do those 3 things. I guess it's that Anthony Robbins that said you must take care of yourself so you can be healthy and at least get out of bed. And second, you have to really know what you want. And third, you have to turn that fear into action. So I have seen those things operate firsthand, and I know they work. And I think they're a much larger part of my life now. And
clearly, it seems like this is where you want to be.
Oh, I love the industry. I love the business. I mean, I am thrilled every time we get to, the only thing bad about getting to come and work with EAS is that you just never want to go home. You know, it's a lot of fun. The company's great, and it feels good because you know you're doing something that is healthy and productive.
Disneyland for adults.
Disneyland for adults. That's right.
Yeah. Once upon a time, you looked in that magazine, Muscle Media, and I'm sure you saw a few brawny guys that you said, hey, I wouldn't mind looking like that. Now people are opening up the magazine, and they're looking at Abb Ansley. How's that feel? It
really feels good. I mean, I'd lie if I said it didn't, and I think it does for everybody. But it's a lot of fun, and people have been great. It's wonderful to get the letters. I got a letter from a gentleman in California and said, he told me a little bit about himself, and he said, look, I need some help. He said, I wrote in the magazine, and I thought, Abb can help.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun to get the opportunity to help and to have people ask for advice and so forth.
How many people in the hometown recognize you from the magazine?
A lot, and more so even with the video.
The movie?
Yeah. The movie gets such good circulation. And it happens, you know, we were in New Orleans airport the other day, and somebody walks up to me and my family says, you're the guy, aren't you the one? And I said, yeah, I think if I know what you're talking about. But it's been a lot of fun.
You still at the same gym?
You know what? I'm working out. When I was doing the contest, I was working out at a couple of gyms. One was the Lady of the Lake Hospital, which is more of a doctor's gym. You know, it's not a real hardcore kind of weightlifting gym. Mostly Nautilus equipment.
Like a wellness center?
Yeah, like a wellness center kind of. And but I enjoyed that, and had some good attendance there that really helped. And the other was a place called Spectrum, which I worked at during the contest, and I am working out some. But I have moved my membership ran out, and I've moved to a gym a little closer to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit more of a hardcore kind of gym.
So how many people do you have coming up to you when you're in the gym going, hey, listen, Abb, you got some time to help me with the shoulders today?
I have just about every time now. You have somebody new that's coming up and saying, hey, I saw the movie. Are you the guy? What's your name?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun, and of course glad to help. And
now, is there a certain amount of pressure associated with being an EAS champ because, you know, you have people coming up to you for advice, that you have people looking up to you? Do you feel a sense of responsibility?
I think sense of responsibility is a good word for it, because we have been given the opportunity, and EAS has been kind enough to entrust us with this award, and so you want to do good. You want to uphold the image and stay in shape, and so yes, I think there's a little bit, not in a bad way, but it's there.
All right, you're the champ. You've done it. You've got the bod. Now, how do you avoid complacency?
Well, I think that's interesting about the sport. I think you almost really become, I'm going to use the wrong word, hooked almost. It's fun. I mean, and done correctly, it doesn't consume your life, and it doesn't have to. As a matter of fact, I've found that the more you know about it, the more efficient you can do your workouts and achieve the same results, I think. So the way I have avoided complacency is I've enjoyed continued gains and continued good feelings, and and I like doing it. I consider it kind of a hobby now.
If you had to target 3 factors that are the most important factors in making the change, what would you tell people they are?
Well, there is no question that there are 3 facets of the program. It's the nutrition, and I'm talking about the food that you eat. Somebody said that food is the most powerful drug you'll ever put in your body. So the food. Then there's the supplementation, which I think, in my case, absolutely help. The Myplexes and the creatines and the HPs helped foster the gains that I made. The other is the workout consistency and the workout program itself, and being diligent and disciplined about sticking to your program. There are no question those. Now, those are the kind of the sticks and the stones of it. The fuel, if you will, or the part that makes it go is the desire to make some kind of change, and the belief that you can do it, and the ability, I guess, to give yourself a chance by sticking to it. So I think those are the 3 or 4 to me that are most important.
How about the skeptics that say, you know what, I can't believe that you can make a change like that in 12 weeks?
That is so much fun, and it's been fun for me because my friends that know me know that I did it, and know that it was a tested contest, and know that I would never been involved in any substance that would aid that other than the supplements from EAS. So I haven't had to to convince anybody because they know it's a fact and they see it happening. But I get that comment all the time. So, man, I never believed all those before and after pictures. Right. But I see you now and I know, and that's amazing. We were at the Arnold Classic, and I had my little profile in my hand, and there was a gentleman standing there, and he was looking at my profile, and I was standing behind him. He was just shaking his head, and he said, "I don't believe this." I said, "Yeah, I don't think they could have done that in 12 weeks, do you?" And he turned around and he looked, and he saw me, and he kind of did a double take, and he laughed, and I said, "Well, hey, it's the truth." But anyway, we had a good time with it.
How about the myth that some people look at the amazing physique transformation and they say, you know what? To do that, I'm going to need a lot of money. I need a trainer. I need a nutritionist. I need 2 hours a day. I need 6 days a week.
And it's simply not true. And I think each contestant would say the same thing. What you need is the ability to put in some focused work. What you need is the ability and the desire to make a change, and that's free. If you can, paradoxically free. It's free from money costs, but it takes some effort. So the supplements are critical, but you can gauge them at your own speed. You don't have to take every product EAS makes every day. There's lots of ways to cycle that on and off. You don't have to spend a tremendous amount of time in the gym. I spent approximately an hour every other night. Now, I didn't miss any days, but that's all. I didn't go early and didn't go in extra on Saturdays or anything else. So time-wise is not a problem. So I think that those are excuses that people may use to get themselves off the hook, but they're not valid.
You've reached the end of Side 1. Please turn the tape over for more of this interview.
All right, let's get to the nuts and bolts and the how-to, and let's tell people how you trained. Assuming, I don't know anything about training or how you got started. So take me through your workout week.
Okay, I phased it a little differently. As I initially, the first 2 or 3 weeks, and I think it's important to mention this because there may be others out there that really haven't been lifting in a while. But for the first 2 weeks, I really did fairly light weights, 10 to 15 reps, and I would go through virtually an entire body workout per workout. It was not tremendously intense, but I would essentially do a 1 to 2 exercises for my arms, 1 to 2 exercises for my chest, 1 to 2 exercises for my shoulders. Would do ab work and leg work, essentially all in one workout.
Wow!
And I did that. It was not real intense, but I did it because I hadn't been lifting in a long time, and I was conscious that I didn't want to injure myself and not be able to complete the contest. And I wanted to, and whether this is scientific or not, I don't know, but I wanted to acclimate my insertions and my tendons and my ligaments, which had not lifted in a long time, so I didn't want to shock them right away.
How long did that take you?
It took me, it was hour, maybe hour and 10 minutes or
okay.
so. It was not an intense real workout. It was a whole circuit, almost a circuit training kind of thing. And I did that for about, I don't know, almost 2 weeks, I guess.
Was that every other day? Or?
Every other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have, during that phase of it, I was conditioning as much as really specifically adding weight. So it wasn't, I don't think it was critical to exactly what exercise or sets and reps, but I was doing lighter weight, higher reps to get my body used to lifting weights.
Okay.
And I say all of them every week. I may have, if I didn't complete, after an hour or so, and I was pretty well shot at that point, hour and 10 minutes, I still had other work to do, then that was the first up on the next workout.
Okay.
So if I'd missed, I was an hour and 10 minutes and I hadn't done my shoulders yet, then I would start with shoulders on the next workout and complete as much again. But I never went over more than an hour, say an hour and 15 minutes in the initial workouts.
Okay.
Now, as I progressed and felt like I wanted to begin my workout routine in earnest, then I was much more specific about what exercises I did when, and the easiest way to describe the workout was that I picked up as much weight as I could, and that was the biggest difference from my specific lifting style than I had ever done before, as I haphazardly had lifted on and off over the years. I was conscious of doing less reps with more weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I would typically do let's just take a shoulder press. I would do a warm-up set.
How many?
8 to 10.
Okay.
And fairly lightweight, something that and I'm getting ahead of myself, but suffice it to say, I would of course warm up before I started anything, and I generally did that by running about 3 to 5 minutes on a treadmill.
Okay.
And this may be more important for us over 40 guys than it is for the young guys, but I found that was very helpful to me and got me warm and my blood flowing and was preventative for injuries. Anyway, I would also do some shoulder loosening, just general stretching. All right, then let's take, for instance, I would start a shoulder press. I would do a warm-up set with a medium to lightweight, 8 to 10 reps. Now, after that, I would do 3 work sets. And the first one, and I would increase the weight from the warm-up set, and I would do 10 to 12. I would at that point use the weight and how I felt that day with that specific weight to determine how much weight I added. I added some weight, whatever I felt was appropriate at that time. And I am embarrassed to say that I did not, except for my bench press and some leg work, I didn't write down one routine or one weight amount from one workout to the next. But I would use that first set to gauge how strong and what I felt like the next set would be. The next set would be 8 reps. Now, the third set, and I typically would find myself not putting on as much weight maybe as I thought I should have for the second set. So I would generally get my 8. But at that point I thought, okay, I've got 1 set left, and I would load it on pretty heavy and try to do a 4 to a 6 rep set. And that is the way I gauge the weights. Now I'll tie all this up together and I'll ramble for a few minutes, but I did that for arms, I did that for back exercises, I did that for shoulder exercises. I did it to some degree for leg exercises. Abdominal work was pretty standard. I did crunches and I did them until I couldn't do anymore, and then did another set or so after that. But on the bench press, I was very, very specific on weights and the program I followed, and it came straight out of Sean Phillips, How to Add 50 Pounds to Your Bench Press. And if you'll, and then that's available from EAS and it's still in print, and I just can't say enough about it. Now that program was exactly the opposite from what I was doing on my the shoulders, arms, and backs. It was very specific as to how many sets and how many reps, and basically it was every other workout for me was a bench workout, and that's about a 5-day rest. But Sean has a chart in there, and you start with your beginning weight, your beginning maximum, and then he uses a percentage of that weight, and he has a chart where you can look it up, and then he says, okay, for first set you'll do 3 sets of this amount, and the second set you'll do 2 sets. And one of the things that I thought was most beneficial about that workout was on your heavy day, one was a heavy and one was a little bit lighter day, you added 10 to 15, 20 pounds to your absolute maximum weight, and you had someone spot you to do just 1 negative rep, which sounds like not enough work, but I followed Sean's letter of the law on that, and it was very, very effective to me. I had never benched anywhere near what I benched, and I was benching over 300 pounds when we finished, and that's not 500, but 300 pounds is a pretty good bench, and it's effective. So that is the way in general, and we'll go back and kind of walk at specifics in a minute on what day I did what. But I was very flexible on my arms and my shoulders and my back, and really my legs. But I was very, very inflexible and very specific on the bench routine. And judging from the pictures, that my pec work was effective, and I attribute that to the workout. So that's the way I approached it. After a first 10-day or so week to kind of get acclimated to the weeks, then I worked out every other night, and I worked out generally between 8 and 9 at night, and I very rarely worked for more than an hour. Now here's a key though, and I really think this is important, and you read about it in every magazine and every article, and it's intensity, and nobody can tell you what that is. That's different for everybody, but you always know if you've done it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know because you're tired, or you know because how hard the effort was, and that was critical. So I worked out for 45 minutes to an hour, but the intensity was always very high after that initial 10-day period, and I was absolutely finished. And if you can stay in there longer than an hour, then you probably ought to look at the intensity level of your exercise, because you're probably not intense enough.
All right, let's take a look at what muscles you worked on what days.
Okay. I didn't set a specific Monday, Friday, or Saturday. I began the day, and every other day, so it would change from week.
Right.
My weekday would change, but it was every other day. The bench press. Let's just say I started my first workout. I would have a bench and shoulder typically. I would skip a day. I would do a leg day and an ab day. The next workout was also a bench day. The next day was the remaining body parts that I had not completed, arms and back, as I mentioned. Then I would simply start the routine over again, and it was effective to me. Now, occasionally, if I felt like it, I would reverse the order. I virtually never used, except for the bench and my leg exercises, never used the same rep set scheme or same order in the other body parts, and I think it allowed muscle confusion is a good theory, but it also allowed me some flexibility so that I didn't get old fast or didn't get burned out. It allowed some flexibility, so if I felt more like doing side laterals than I did overhead presses, then I was heavier. I emphasized that more first in the routine that day. So that's the way I did it. I did not keep a real good written record other than the bench press.
All free weights?
No, that's not true. I used, as I mentioned, I worked out in 2 gyms. One gym was more like a wellness center, and they had virtually only Nautilus equipment. Mm-hmm. And I used it. And my theory is that if you really want to work out, you can do it with a set of dumbbells.
Right.
I mean, there's a certain amount of truth in weight. If you pick it up enough times, and maybe the machine doesn't feel quite as heavy to you, but if you do more reps or add some more weight, then you're effective. And so the intensity level is much more important, I think, than the vehicle, whether it's Strive or whether it's a machine or whether it's free weights. To me.
How about sleep and water?
Well, that's so important, isn't it? Isn't that funny? Sleep and water, and they sound so basic, but that over and over you hear your muscles are not growing while they're in the gym. And I believe they're obviously growing between the workouts, but sleep is critical. I mean, and none of us get enough of it. I read a book the other day that said if you get just 1 hour less sleep than is optimal for you, you can decrease your alertness by 25%. And I think that's even more important. And we all do it. I mean, it's an epidemic in our country. But I think especially when you're going through an intensive weight training program where you're trying to make a big difference, then a night of missed sleep is as bad as a week worth of missed workouts. I really believe that.
Yeah. And water?
Water's critical. I mean, we do our body 70% water, and I've had people say, "Well, creatine just adds water to your muscle cells." I say, "Yeah, that's right, and that's what's in there anyway."
Yeah.
And it makes it more efficient and makes it stronger. So I think water is critical. Plus, it allows your system to flush the waste products that occur when your cells are growing and building, and when you're tearing them down and lifting. So I think water is critical. And try to drink a little over a gallon a day. I talked to somebody the other day, said they were drinking 4 gallons a day. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But a gallon a day is a minimum, and that they tell me should be exclusive of Diet Cokes and teas and milkshakes. So it's 1 gallon of water over and above what your normal shake or intake would be.
Finally, how about your aerobic training? Because obviously you're ripped in the pictures.
My aerobics training was again not quite as critical in some cases as some of the guys that were really cutting weight, because I was gaining. And what I did for aerobics was that I would, about every third day, I would get up in the morning early and run, and it would moderate pace and it'd be a couple of miles. On the weekends, in the middle of the day, on a hot day, if I felt like it, I would also run. And that was really the extent of my aerobics. Toward the end of the contest, I stepped up the aerobics a little bit, but under the same kind of theory, because I was gaining mass, and I didn't want to overdo the aerobics to hurt that. I was careful on what I ate, but I didn't want to lose the mass that I was attempting to gain. And I felt like that it was critical for me to make the kind of visual impact that would be necessary to win the contest, that I wanted as much mass as I could carry.
So how many times are you running a week?
About every third day in the mornings, and I think it is effective to get up early before you eat. And all the studies, they tell me, you say that you burn 300% more fat that way. I did do some interval training in the morning. Sometimes I jogged. Sometimes I would jog for a little while and then sprint for a little while and then jog till I caught my breath again. But again, I think when you've worked sufficient. And but I was very flexible on that. About every third day, and then on the weekends I would also run. And occasionally, on a non-workout day, I may run in the evenings, but not overly intensive, because toward the end of the contest, as I was getting ready for the photos, I did some middle of the day kind of sweat running, I'll call it. But that's it.
All right, let's talk about nutrition and supplementation. And first, we'll talk about nutrition. What did you eat?
I used the anabolic burst diet, and it was very effective for me. Now, the anabolic burst diet, the way I used it, simply says that or for my weight, around 200 pounds, that I should be eating 4,000 to 4,500 calories a day. And I love the theory behind it, because it says you are using your own body's natural hormonal responses to help build mass. Now, it is difficult to eat that much, but I did it as Bill recommended, with several meals a day. But in between meals, between breakfast and lunch, I had a Myplex middle of the morning. I had a Myplex and milk in the middle of the afternoon. And then before I went to bed, I always made sure that I had some sort of a protein supplementation before I went to bed, and I took the Cytovol before I went to bed. And I thought the Cytovol was very effective for me. I mean, I really could tell a difference, and I liked that product. The general supplementation, I started the same way I did the weightlifting. The initial first week or so, I was very light. Then I began, after 2 weeks, I began taking the phosphagen. After a couple weeks, I began taking the HP, which is more effective in placing the creatine in the muscle cell. About halfway through the contest, I started taking virtually everything EAS has. And I'm not sure whether that phase kind of thing had an advantage or not, but it worked for me. But there's no question that the whey proteins and the creatines were pivotal in my gain to me.
All right. So during the time where you're taking about 4,500 calories a day, you're eating 3 regular meals.
Right.
Maybe 4?
No, 3 regular meals would be it.
And then how many shakes?
1 early in the morning, 1 mid-morning, 1 mid-afternoon, and 1 in the evening.
All right, so we got 4 shakes and about 3 meals.
That's correct.
So you're eating what, every 2 hours you're drinking?
Every 2 hours, 2.5 or so.
Yeah,
and typically I ran it, rather than, and specifically I just knew I tried to eat breakfast around 8, try to eat lunch around 12. Middle between those two, I would have some supplement of some sort of shake. And then between 12 and 6, when I tried to eat supper, I would have another shake.
Give me a typical lunch and a typical dinner.
A typical lunch would be green beans, meatloaf, mashed potatoes.
Wow.
I feel guilty because I know Porter said that if he ate one more piece of chicken, he was going to peck gravel. But I didn't. But I didn't have to cut that. Now, after the 2 weeks period. Now we laugh and tease, but it's hard. I mean, you start adding the calories up.
Yeah, no.
4,500 calories. It's damn near. You get sick of eating.
Absolutely.
But it was effective, and I think it helped add the mass to me.
And dinner was along the same line?
Dinner could have been varied. I did make an effort to eat some steaks in dinner and some baked potatoes, vegetables. I ate more vegetables than I had ever eaten.
Right.
I mean, it's really in my diet during the anabolic phase was kind of like Grandma used to cook a little bit, But that was during the anabolic burst phase, and the intent there was to add the calories heavily to increase your metabolism. And I could tell. I mean, I was hot at night. I didn't need a jacket in the winter.
Right.
I mean, it was my metabolism stepped up pretty significantly.
Cooking.
Yeah, it was cooking.
And how about when you dropped down to like 2,400?
What I did there, the strict anabolic burst diet requires you to really cut back to under, say, 2,000. I didn't cut it quite that much, but again, because I was trying to add mass, and I felt like I would. I was staying fairly cut, and not getting overly heavy, so I wasn't as concerned with that. And I basically cut it back, same number of meals. I was just much more careful about what was in the meal, and those meals were more chicken, vegetable meals, or steak, vegetable meals.
All right. And the supplements used again, what was it Myoplex Deluxe?
Myoplex Deluxe, yes, I used that. I used initially the phosphagen. I changed the HP after say about a month, and I really think the HP stuff works. I mean, I can tell it's a significant difference. About halfway through the contest, I used the Cytovol, Betagen, and also the V2G. At that time, the Andro 6 was not
Printing
not
started.
I did not use that. Virtually every product they had available at the time, I used halfway through the contest till the completion.
If someone was going to just take one supplement, what would you recommend?
There's no question HP is effective. HP for most of the people, I think is the most important supplement. There's no question in my mind.
How'd you keep track of it all?
I was just have a big cabinet and all the vitamins in, and I knew I could remember to drink a milkshake in the morning, and I could remember to eat something between breakfast and lunch, and between lunch and dinner. And I typically took the vitamins and the pill supplements on schedule as they arranged, and I made sure that I had them, of course, early in the morning and at breakfast and in the evening.
Printing complete.
And what was the ones I needed to take in the middle of the day, I would just put in a Ziploc bag in, stick in my pocket.
Do you think you could have achieved the results without using the supplements?
I personally don't. I mean, I think that not only the supplements were physiologically effective, I think mentally it was important.
Yeah.
I really believe that if I worked at it hard and I was providing myself with the body with the stimulus to grow, and then the basic nutrients and the supplements to augment that and to help it grow, then I would. So I think there was a certainty in my mind that the supplements were effective, and I think that helped me a great deal.
If you had to do it again, would you? And is there anything that you would change, or would you pretty much do it the same?
I would keep a better record probably I'd keep a training journal. I've heard Bill say intuitive training does not work, and although mine was not purely intuitive because I was very strict on the bench press, which was a major function from mine, I was intuitive on some of the other, and I would be more specific on my training journal. The Precision Protein, which is available now, is a whey protein, and without a shadow of a doubt, that is a phenomenal product and really adds muscle mass to me. So other than maybe use more of the whey protein product, keep a better journal, I can't think of anything I would do different.
You really have an infectious personality. Just from being around you a little bit, you're fun to be around. You're always happy. You've got a smile on your face. So to ask the question, has this been fun for you, is kind of redundant. It obviously has.
Oh, it really has. It has, Dan. It has been a lot of fun through the whole thing. I attribute it all entirely to my 17-year flawless relationship with my wife, who's never fussed at me one day in 17 years. It was such a wonderful inspiration through the contest. Yeah. I'm teasing my wife a little bit. I hope this makes it on tape. but no, it's been a lot of fun. And again, it's in any successful effort, kind of is an enjoyable thing, and it has been, and that's one of the reasons because it has been so successful. Plus, I can't say enough about the EAS people. I mean, EAS has made this thing a wonderful experience, and they have really bent over backwards to treat us perfectly, and the other folks in the contest have been wonderful to get to know and meet, and it's been just a wonderful experience from A to Z.
What do you say to someone who comes up to you and says, Ab, show me the way. I need some answers.
And that's always the toughest question, because and you'll start, you'll go through several things, and then you'll think of 50 other things, and it's a difficult question. But what I always say is that it is possible, and it absolutely is possible. I went for 20 years trying to gain weight, and now with a little knowledge and some proper nutrition and so forth, it's possible. And so that's the way I start answering that question.
Yeah. And how does it feel to help other people?
Well, that's wonderful. One of the things I do in my business is I raise money for philanthropic causes, And I love the quote that says, when you pursue your own dreams, you create passion, and when you help others attain their dreams, you create heaven. And that's a little corny, but it really is true. And it is I have 4 children, and that has been the most fun for me, is to be able to see them begin to understand how important goal setting is, and that it's possible to really do what you say and work hard at things. That's a bad answer for a wonderful question, but it's a fact. Helping other people is pretty central to what we've been put here for, I think.
You ever think you'd be a spokesperson for EAS?
I didn't think that I would be prior to reading the contest, but when I read the contest rules, I thought that it was tailor-made. So I thought at that point, as I entered the contest, that yes, that I could do this.
And it's been great so far.
And it has been great so far.
Yeah. How about goals for the future? What's next for Abb Ansley?
Well, you know what is the most important, I think, to Lizzie and I, we have 4 children. I have a 14-year-old and a 13-year-old little girl and a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old little boy. And those are their successful maturation and schooling and so forth are the most important goals for us. I would love to be involved in the fitness industry in a more direct way. I think, again, once you become involved, and you kind of get hooked on it. So there may be involvement in the fitness industry in the future.
What's long-term success mean?
Long-term success is a happy family to me, and a successful children being healthy and successful, and the peace that comes, I guess, from doing your best. And it kind of segues into what Bill says about everybody has their best body, and I think we all have certain talents and attributes that we're given the opportunity to use here, and if you use them to their fullest and as you believe that you should and follow your own heart, that's success to me, I think.
You talked about how the lifestyle change poured over to other parts of your life. Did a new philosophy of life come with that?
You know, Dan, I don't think a new philosophy of life. I think a birth of an old philosophy.
Yeah.
As we get older, I think we all tend to become a little more cynical and think, well, that's what I dreamed about when I was a kid. But I think some of those dreams are now look more possible. And indeed, as a lot of the contestants said, you know, now you believe you can do really what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful way to do it. If you think you can control your own body, then it kind of tends to translate out into the rest of your world. Golly, I can control this, so maybe I can do something else that I want to do bigger and outside and in other parts of my life.
If someone comes up to you and says, I'm getting ready to start this journey, is it worth it?
Absolutely. Now, that's an easy one, boy. I tell you, that's that's the easiest question. It absolutely is, and nothing ventured, nothing gained, and small dreams don't inspire men's souls, and all those good cliches that you hear about. But I think there is no downside and all upside. Bill said it best. I said, worst case, you'll be in better shape than you've ever been in your life.
Yeah.
Best case, somebody drops a Corvette off at your door.
How about all the people out there listening that are thinking, I probably can't tackle a challenge of this magnitude?
Well, that's one of the great things about weightlifting. You don't have to. You're not playing on a football team. You don't have to find somebody that's as good at tennis. You can start with a 2.5-pound plate if you have to. I mean, it's easy, and it's all self-governed and self-feedback and self-paced, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So that, to me, is what makes this such a universal appeal. Every single person in this country can do this, and they can make a tremendous gain from where they started. And that appealed to me about the contest. I didn't have to know that I was going to compete against somebody that might weigh 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I was competing against myself and where I started and where I ended. And I think that's that anybody can do that, and will and should try.
And guys like John Elway and Shannon Sharp and Bill Romanowski, who you met from the Denver Broncos, are even doing it.
Now, is that wonderful, though? And that is so fun. Those guys were so gracious and wonderful. And after seeing the body of work video, John Elway came and said, Abb, I wanted to meet you. I love the video. It's one of the most inspirational I've seen. Now, as an old football fan, I said, that's a heck of a kick. You know, that's something I've repeated that story several times. And it's really a lot of fun. And So, yeah, that's great.
How about the person who's halfway through and doesn't think they can continue or finish the journey? What advice can you give them?
Boy, that's an easy one, too, just as easy as first. Don't quit. I mean, they just don't quit. Keep on, then there were nights. At 8 o'clock, and oh, God, by the time I get over there, I won't really have time, and I do it. And I swear, I think if I had missed one, then it would have been easier to miss another one. And so my advice there is don't quit. And sometimes the days that you really don't feel like going to the gym, you'll wind up being your best workouts.
What was the best advice you received through the whole thing, and can you pass it on?
That's a good question. The advice, of course, comes on two levels. There's technical advice on how to do the programs, what nutrients and so forth to take. But I think that the most important advice is that, or encouragement, I'll call it more than advice, is, from my wife, who gave me good positive feedback and said, you can do this. And that, to me, is overarching all the other specifics.
Is there anything we've missed that you can share with people, let them think about while they decide how to change their lifestyle or their program?
Well, Everett said it in his, and I've said it earlier in the interview. I think that the changes on the outside are just a metaphor for the changes on the inside. And it is an activity that you can absolutely do that has immediate and definitive feedback that you can see you're making progress. And as you complete it and are true to yourself and keep the little promises you make to yourself regarding the program, you will make an astounding change in the way you feel about yourself and the way you look.
Abb, thanks for being with us, sharing your story. I'm sure it'll be a great motivator for so many people. And listeners, thank you for joining us. Remember what Abb says. Believe in persistence, that integrity is paramount, and that hard work and commitment are synonymous with accomplishment.
On behalf of the entire EAS team and staff of Muscle Media Magazine, thank you for listening. And remember, our goal is to help you achieve your goals. If we can help you in any way, give us a call at 1-800-297-9776 or visit the EAS website at www.eas.com. Abb Ansley achieved extraordinary results during EAS's 1997 Physique Transformation Challenge from his unique program of training, nutrition, and supplementation. Because individuals differ, their results will differ, even using the same training, nutrition, and supplementation programs. Before commencing any program of exercise, nutrition, or supplementation, consult with your doctor, particularly if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, chronically ill, elderly, or under the age of 18. Or if you're taking any prescription or other medications.